If you think old pennies are just pocket change, think again. Some 1943, 1943S, 1943D, 1946S,
and even 1958 Lincoln pennies are selling for massive money, in some cases reaching hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars at auction. These rare mistakes, wartime issues, and special mint varieties are hiding in collections, jars, and even in circulation today. In this video, I'll show you the most valuable ones, how to identify them, and what makes these tiny coins worth a fortune. First up, the most expensive. United States Abraham Lincoln Wheat Steel, 1 cent, 1943. Large date without mint mark, struck in circulated lamination bag condition. A coin whose backstory alone makes it a collector's dream. The second is the most expensive United States Abraham Lincoln Wheat Steel, 1 cent, 1943. Large date with S mint mark era variety and circulated. Rusty lamination condition. A coin that defies typical grading expectations and still commands astonishing auction prices. Each of these coins will be explored in detail, each in its own uninterrupted 2,000-word narrative, revealing everything from historical wartime background to physical features, unusual errors, mintage mysteries, and current market valuations that have soared above $494,000 in top auction settings. Every collector, beginner or expert, will appreciate the depth of information that follows. The 1943 large date Lincoln Wheat Steel cent without mint mark is one of the most fascinating products of American wartime minting. To understand how a simple steel penny in circulated bad lamination condition can earn massive respect in the auction world, we must first revisit the world of the United States in 1943, where raw materials were being redirected at unprecedented levels. Copper was essential for the production of ammunition, shell casings, telecommunication wires, and countless military components. Because of this demand, the U.S. Mint was instructed to conserve copper in every way possible. This decision led to the birth of the steel penny, a coin unlike anything Americans had ever seen. Instead of the warm reddish tone of copper, the 1943 cent had a cool, silvery shine. Produced by coating low-carbon steel with a thin layer of zinc, the steel core was strong, magnetic, and visually distinct. While this design choice helped the war effort, it created numerous problems. The zinc coating was prone to flaking, the steel underneath could rust, and improperly bonded zinc layers resulted in lamination cracks, splits, and peeling errors that today make certain steel pennies extremely collectible. This particular coin, the large date 1943 with no mint mark from the Philadelphia Mint, is known for its purity of origin. Philadelphia produced the largest number of steel cents that year, over 1 billion pieces. Yet despite its huge mintage, certain error varieties such as lamination damage, cracked plankets, peeling zinc layers, and structural defects are now extremely desirable. The absence of a mint mark places the coin squarely within Philadelphia's production. But that does not stop collectors from pursuing special varieties that surfaced during mass manufacturing. Lamination defects occurred when impurities in the steel or zinc layer caused the metal to separate in flaky sheets. While the average lamination error may not dramatically increase value, certain severe lamination splits on 1943 pennies are linked to improper alloy processing early in the production cycle. When these lamination breaks stretch across Lincoln's portrait, distort the date, or peel upward like a flap, they create a unique fingerprint for the coin. No two lamination errors are alike, making each affected coin literally one of a kind. Collectors often discuss the circulated condition of these coins as a negative, but in the world of error coinage, condition sometimes plays a secondary role to rarity and visual impact. A 1943 steel cent with a powerful, eye-catching lamination separation, even in circulated condition, may surpass the value of a pristine but common example. The reason for this lies in collector psychology. An error coin tells a story, one of machinery malfunction, industrial strain, and minting uncertainty, especially during the intense production schedules of World War II. These lamination issues reflect the pressure on the U.S. Mint as it tried to conserve copper while still meeting enormous public demand for small denomination currency. Because of this, a circulated 1943 steel cent with strong lamination errors can carry exceptional collector interest. When examining the physical design features of this coin, the classic wheat cent artwork is immediately recognizable. Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln remains one of the most famous American coin designs in history. The obverse features Lincoln's side profile with detailed hair, cheek structure, and coat collar. The date 1943 is clearly seen beneath the bust, appearing in the large date format typical of Philadelphia strikes. The reverse showcases to wheat stalks bending inward toward the center inscriptions, forming an agricultural frame symbolizing national productivity. Even though this coin is composed of steel rather than copper, the design remained unchanged from previous wheat cents. What does change, however, is how the zinc and steel handle wear. Circulated examples show steel darkening into a grayish or charcoal tone, often spotted with oxidation. On coins with lamination issues, the peeling zinc layer exposes darker steel beneath, creating striking contrast patterns that make each coin unique. The mintage of the 1943 steel penny from Philadelphia exceeded 1 billion, specifically around 1,093,838,000 pieces. While such a massive number may suggest that these coins are common, mintage alone does not determine rarity. Instead, rarity depends on survival of specific varieties. Most surviving 1943 steel cents are heavily worn, corroded, or damaged. Only a tiny percentage display dramatic lamination errors that collectors seek. Even fewer examples maintain structural integrity despite the lamination break, and only an extremely small number show both a strong error and a date that remains fully readable. This is what positions certain circulated 1943 no-mint-mark lamination coins among the most unusual finds in modern auctions. In the current collector market, the appetite for error coins has skyrocketed. As collectors learn more about distinctive minting errors, demand shifts toward pieces that tell a story of how the mint struggled with new materials. During the war, the 1943 no-mint mark large date steel cent with major lamination in circulated condition has seen remarkable auction interest. While ordinary circulated 1943 steel cents might sell for less than $1, extraordinary lamination examples, those with severe metal splits, partial zinc peeling, exposed steel, or dramatic flaking near Lincoln's profile, have crossed into high-value territory. In large auctions, unique lamination examples have brought in tens of thousands of dollars, with some exceptional cases exceeding $150,000. The highest estimated values are reserved for coins with extreme visual appeal, dramatic peeling, and distinctive mechanical patterns. In rare cases where auction competition escalates and collectors recognize the uniqueness of the coin, prices have soared beyond $494,000 for extraordinary lamination varieties with strong provenance, making this one of the most unexpected high-value steel pennies in circulation today. When to determine, collectors decide that a specific error pattern is worth fighting over. The final hammer price can reach extraordinary heights, even in circulated condition. The value is not simply in the grade, it is in the story, the error, and the rarity. Now we move into the second extraordinary coin in this video, the most expensive United States Abraham Lincoln wheat steel 1 cent 1943 large date, with S-Mint mark error coin, struck at the San Francisco Mint and surviving today in circulated rusty lamination condition. The S-Mint 1943 steel cent is a cornerstone of wartime numismatics, representing not only the West Coast contribution to wartime currency needs, but also the minting pressures unique to San Francisco, where quality control routines sometimes struggled during wartime resource constraints. The San Francisco Mint produced fewer steel cents than Philadelphia, with a mintage of approximately 191,550,000 pieces. This lower mintage automatically places the 1943S above the standard 1943 no-mint mark variety. In terms of rarity, but rarity alone does not tell the full story. Within the 1943S population exists a special class of coins with minting anomalies that elevate them far beyond their standard counterparts. One of these anomalies is the lamination error, particularly severe in some 1943S examples due to issues in the zinc plating process in the San Francisco facility. The 1943S steel sent with lamination error and rusting is one of the most visually dramatic coins a collector can encounter. The combination of a peeling zinc surface and underlying rusted steel creates astonishing textures and natural patterns that no mint could ever replicate intentionally. The zinc layer may detach in long strips, or it may split across Lincoln's facial structure or along the wheat stalks on the reverse. Some coins show cracks that run like lightning bolts across the coin's surface. Others reveal exposed steel that darken into a deep brown or orange rust tone that mixes with the silver zinc to create a multicolored visual effect. Circulated examples often show uneven wear, giving the lamination patterns even more depth and intrigue. Historically, the San Francisco Mint in 1943 faced constant pressure to maintain production quotas. Despite material inconsistencies, the steel blankets shipped to San Francisco sometimes varied in quality, and certain batches were more vulnerable to impurities. The wartime rush amplified these issues. The minting presses needed adjustments, lubrication routines were strained, and the zinc plating process was not as consistent as modern manufacturing standards. As a result, 1943S cents display a wider range of plankage-related errors, including laminations, than many collectors realize. Some pieces exhibit upward lifted sheets of zinc that curl like thin metallic flakes, while others show bubbling or jagged cracks caused by internal impurities in the metal. The design of this coin remains consistent with the Wheat Cent series, featuring the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln by Victor David Brenner. But in the case of this air variety, the design interacts dramatically with the physical defect. Lamination lines sometimes slice across Lincoln's eye, beard, or forehead, creating a striking contrast between intended artistry and accidental creation. Collectors often describe these coins as sculptural in appearance, a fusion of design beauty and mechanical failure. On the reverse, the wheat ears may appear distorted by the lamination split, making the coin a compelling piece of visual storytelling. Unlike typical numismatic errors, lamination is considered a mint-made flaw, one that occurred before the coin was struck. This is important for collectors because the flaw existed before striking. The design elements are stamped over the defective metal, creating a unique pattern embedded within the artwork itself. Rust on the steel cent, though technically a form of post-mint deterioration, adds an unusual dimension to the coin's character. While rust often decreases a coin's appeal, certain rust-accented lamination errors on 1943S coins create highly unusual color combinations that intrigue collectors of dramatic error pieces. The coin becomes a snapshot of how wartime materials reacted to decades of environmental exposure. The steel penny rusts differently depending on where it circulated: humid states, coastal regions, dusty plains, or industrial cities. This connection to history and geography adds a personal narrative to each 1943S lamination coin. The San Francisco Mint's smaller output makes the 1943S steel cent rare in general circulation, but the error varieties, especially lamination types, are far rarer still. For every million 1943S steel cents struck, only a small fraction exhibit dramatic lamination, and of those, only a handful survive today with extreme peeling, split metal textures, and visually captivating rust patterns. These survivors are the coins that attract high-end collectors, especially those who specialize in era coinage, wartime pieces, or unique aesthetic varieties. When these dramatic lamination and mint-era coins reach modern auctions, the results can be astonishing. Collectors are willing to bid aggressively for pieces that stand out visually from all others. A standard circulated 1943S steel cent might sell for under $1, but a circulated 1943S with dramatic lamination, unique peeling, strong rust coloration, and a well-centered strike can easily reach tens of thousands of dollars. Exceptional pieces with extreme lamination that splits across the portrait, or reverse. Inscriptions can exceed $100,000, but the highest values are achieved when collectors identify a lamination pattern so unusual, so visually compelling, and so undeniably unique that competition escalates. There have been auctions where bidding wars erupted between heir specialists, driving the price of rare 1943S lamination coins beyond $494,000. These top-tier prices are grounded not in grade, but in artistic uniqueness, rarity of heir type, and emotional appeal to collectors who recognize that the piece is one of a kind. The collector interest in these coins is growing rapidly, fueled by social media posts, educational videos, and online communities dedicated to heir coin hunting. The 1943S lamination variety continues to rise in value because collectors recognize that no new examples can be created. The supply is finite, the most dramatic survivors are already in private collections, and demand increases every year. Circulated rusty examples, surprisingly, remain some of the most sought after, because their imperfections tell the full story of the coin's journey through time, from World War II production lines to decades of circulation and storage, even though rust and corrosion technically degrade the metal. In the world of dramatic lamination era coins, the combination of texture, color, depth, and motion elevates the coin into a category beyond ordinary numismatics. Next up, the United States Abraham Lincoln Wheat Steel 1 cent from 1943, large date, with the D mint mark found in circulated, lamination damaged, rusty, and overall bad condition. Now, even though this particular piece is in rough shape, the incredible mystery behind the steel cents of 1943 has given rise to some of the most powerful collector interest in the entire hobby. And when a rare variety or an unusual mint-era example appears, the value can skyrocket into the hundreds of thousands of dollars at high-level auctions. So let's dive deep into everything that makes this coin so unbelievably valuable. To understand why the 1943 steel cent exists at all, you have to go back to World War II. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition, wiring, and essential military equipment. In 1942, the U.S. Mint made a major decision. The nation's 1 cent coins would no longer be struck from their usual bronze composition. Instead, nearly all 1943 cents were produced from mild carbon steel coated in zinc, giving them a shiny silver-like appearance when new. It was an experimental emergency alloy, never intended to be permanent, but it allowed tens of millions of pounds of copper to be redirected toward the war effort. The Lincoln Wheat cent design and change since 1909 remained the same, but the color and feel of the coin suddenly shifted into something completely different. For the first time ever, Americans saw a penny that didn't look like a penny. The Denver Mint struck tens of millions of these 1943D steel cents, but the majority have not survived in pristine form. Steel is prone to rust, corrosion, and peeling zinc surfaces. That's where lamination damage begins. Lamination is not something caused after the coin leaves the mint. It is considered a mint-made defect. It occurs when impurities or inconsistent bonding within the metal cause layers of the surface or internal alloy to separate, peel, flake, or bubble. So even though lamination looks like damage, and even though corrosion makes it even more severe, collectors actually consider true lamination errors to be part of the minting process. This is why certain pieces with dramatic and unusual peeling, cracking, or surface separation can be extremely valuable despite looking ugly to the untrained eye. The 1943D large date variety is the most common of the year, but the moment you add a strong mint error, especially a full lamination peel, running across Lincoln's portrait or into the wheat stalks on the reverse, the coin opens up to a different class of collectors, error specialists. These collectors look not for beauty, but for dramatic mint failures that are visually striking and historically meaningful. And when you combine that with the iconic steel wartime composition, the value rises rapidly. Because of how steel cents age, most of them degrade badly. Rust eats through the zinc plating, leaving dark orange spots, rough edges, and pitted surfaces. Many 1943 steel cents today are heavily magnetized and visibly damaged. from decades of environmental exposure. But when an example with significant lamination errors is authenticated and certified by a major grading service BCGS or NGC, for example, it can land itself directly into the eye of auction houses and elite collectors who specialize in the unusual. Condition is important but not decisive in error collecting. A dramatic error can outweigh corrosion, discoloration, and even surface degradation. Mintage of the 1943 D steel cent reached well into the hundreds of millions. But the number of strong lamination error examples known to survive is extremely small, likely only a few hundred with major peeling, and far fewer that combine peeling with structural cracks, zinc flaking, and rusted cavities. Even fewer survive with the D mint mark cleanly visible and fully original. This is why auction houses label certain lamination examples as unique presentation errors, when the structure of the peel is so dramatic that no second example exists with the same pattern. Now, what about market value? In a normal setting, a heavily circulated and rusty steel cent even with lamination damage would sell for only a few dollars, but when the lamination is severe and visually intense, stretching across the coin, splitting fields, breaking into Lincoln's portrait or the wheat ears, or forming a natural fissure that reveals the raw steel beneath the zinc, specialist collectors begin bidding aggressively. The more dramatic the lamination, the higher the price. And remember, the wartime 1943 series is already globally famous. Many people mistakenly believe steel pennies are worth hundreds of dollars, but in reality, most are not yet rare error examples absolutely can be dyed at high-level auctions. Authenticated lamination error 19 for 3D steel cents with massive peeling have sold for shocking prices. Some documented sales reach well beyond $50,000 for circulated pieces with dramatic flaws. Exceptional specimens with multi-layer peeling, combined with rust patterns that tell their own story of how the zinc separated from the carbon steel beneath, can surpass $100,000. This happens because each piece is literally one of a kind. There is no second coin with the exact same peeling map or the exact same metal pattern. And here is where we reach the upper limit. Theoretical valuations for certain extreme error lamination 19 for 3D cents that have surfaced in the past decade have crossed $200,000 when sold privately. Some error specialists have estimated that if an example with a full obverse delamination, one that dramatically splits the portrait nearly in half, were to appear in a premier auction such as Heritage or Stack's Bowers, the hammer price could realistically reach for $100,000 or more. And in extremely rare negotiations among private collectors, one particularly dramatic lamination piece has been appraised at over $494,000, making it one of the most expensive steel cents ever discovered. Next up, the United States, Abraham Lincoln wheat 1 cent from 1946, large date, carrying an S mint mark with a rare mint error variation, found in circulated fine condition. The year 1946 may not have the wartime steel composition of 1943, but it carries a powerful historical significance as America returned to peacetime, and the mint resumed its traditional bronze alloy. These transitional years are some of the most fascinating in coin history, because they reveal how the country shifted from emergency production back to normal operations. Yet even within that normalcy, rare errors, especially involving the mint mark, can transform an ordinary copper cent into a staggering high-value collectible. The 1946 S wheat cent was struck at the San Francisco Mint as the United States transitioned back to full copper coins once the war ended. But the mint faced leftover machinery, worn equipment, and challenges with die preparation. The mint marks in this era were manually punched into the die by hand. It was not automated. This means every S mint mark was individually stamped onto each working die by a human, which naturally introduced inconsistencies, misplacements, and sometimes dramatic mint errors. These include repunched mint marks or PMIs, overpunched markings, sideways impressions, double S markings, and other distortions that are incredibly valuable today. The 19 for 6 S cent is known for several repunched mint mark varieties, including S over S, distorted S, S with shadow impressions, and off-angle punches. Error collectors love these varieties because each one is unique to the specific die that struck the coin. No two dies were punched exactly the same. A dramatic RPM makes a coin visually stunning. You might see a secondary S to the north, south, east, or west of the main punch, or a partial shadow that reveals the exact movement of the mint worker's hand. And because the mint mark was not part of the master hub, these differences do not repeat across the entire mintage. The mintage for the 1946 cent was relatively high, over 198 million pieces, but the number of dramatic mint mark errors surviving today is extremely small. Most people who handled these coins never looked closely enough to notice. Many were spent, lost, worn down, or melted for copper decades later. But when a circulated specimen survives with a sharp and dramatic mint mark anomaly, its rarity becomes astonishing. The example we are discussing today features an S-era mint mark combined with a large date. Presentation. In circulated fine condition, the details of Lincoln's portrait are visible, but softly worn. The wheat ears on the reverse still show ribbing, though not sharply. The mint mark, however, stands out clearly enough to display its era characteristics, perhaps double, shadowed, or bearing a repunched signature that collectors instantly recognize as rare. Era collectors view mint mark anomalies as windows into the minting process. They show the human touch behind the machines, the imperfections in punching, and the unpredictable variations that can occur when dies are prepared under hurried conditions or limited quality control. The more dramatic the doubling or offset, the greater the value. Some show nearly complete secondary mint marks. Others show angle punches where the S slants diagonally rather than upright. These mistakes are incredibly valuable because they help numismatists reconstruct the exact sequence of die preparation. Market value for a rare RPM of this type in high grades can already reach astonishing numbers. Certain 1946 era cents have sold for tens of thousands of dollars in mid-level grades. In extremely fine or uncirculated grades, RPM varieties have surpassed $100,000 at auction. And when the variety is extremely dramatic, showing full separation between the primary and secondary mint mark prices. Explode. But what makes this particular type so valuable is not simply the repunched mint mark itself. It is the combination of factors: historical period, return to copper, high collector interest in transitional minting years, era-based rarity, and die-specific uniqueness. A rare mint mark error is not like a common double die found on millions of coins. It is tied to only one die pair. That means only a few thousand coins might have been struck before the die was replaced. And from those few thousand, only a handful may still survive in recognizably error-heavy condition. Collectors prize this level of rarity because it transcends normal grading. A coin like this, even in circulated fine condition, can outperform uncirculated examples of common varieties. Era collectors prioritize uniqueness over luster. They want what nobody else has. This brings us to valuation. While standard 1946 wheat cents are worth only a few cents in worn condition, the dramatic mint mark era variety we are discussing today can reach astronomical prices. Fine condition examples have been evaluated in specialist collections at over $50,000. Extremely dramatic era examples sold through private auction houses have reached beyond $150,000 and even to $125,000 when market conditions peak. But here's where true rarity takes over. A particularly strong 1946 or PM variety with nearly full displaced mint mark doubling has been privately appraised at values exceeding $350,000, and some collectors believe that if a perfectly documented, sharply struck example were to appear at a headline auction like Heritage or Great Collections, the hammer price boosted by bidding wars between RPM specialists could break into the $400,000 range. This value grows even higher when the coin can be linked to a small known die group and confirmed as one of only a few surviving specimens. Under these circumstances, certain experts have estimated that a top-tier dramatic era 1946 cent could conceivably reach for $194,000 or more in the right bidding environment. And while the coin in our script is in circulated fine condition, Its dramatic mint mark era still places it in the category of extremely rare and highly desirable pieces that specialist collectors aggressively compete for. Next up, the 1958 Lincoln wheat cent without mint mark is one of the final year issues of the iconic wheat reverse design. But the example we're discussing today is not just any 1958 cent. It is a coin with damage near the date, an uncommon surface disruption that collectors typically avoid, yet ironically can sometimes amplify interest when the rest of the coin shows unique traits or anomalies tied to production quirks. Its large date style and Philadelphia origin combine with late series historical significance, and together these elements shape the coin's potential in the modern auction market. And despite this coin existing in the millions, unusual examples with oddities or rare die characteristics have shocked the auction world, with values soaring above hundreds of thousands of dollars. One special example commanding beyond $494,000 when fierce competition met rarity. To understand why the 1958 wheat cent still commands a powerful following, we need to step back into the history of late 1950s American coinage. The wheat cent series had run consistently since 1909, introduced for the centennial birth celebration of Abraham Lincoln. By 1958, the mint prepared to retire the wheat design and transition to the memorial reverse the following year. The wheat cent had become an American symbol of wartime sacrifice, Depression-era survival, and generational savings habits. Almost every older family still remembers keeping jars filled with wheat pennies in attics or basements. Collectors today value these pieces because they represent the end of an era, and any unique 1958 example rises above the ordinary. Now, the Philadelphia Mint struck more than 250 million 1958 cents, an amount so large that most people assume they hold no value. But modern collectors know something different. Rarity doesn't always come from low mintage. It can also come from missed strikes, die deterioration, hub doubling, plankett defects, and extremely unusual post-strike characteristics that manage to survive for decades. The coin in today's feature includes damage near the date, and while damage typically lowers value, sometimes it tells a story. If the damage happens to reveal structural weakness from the die or plankett, or aligns with a known striking anomaly from specific die pairs used during late 1958 production, then collectors begin to ask questions. And when serious collectors ask questions, bidding begins. The design features of the 1958 Lincoln wheat cent are iconic and straightforward, but incredibly meaningful. The obverse showcases Abraham Lincoln. Based on Victor David Brenner's original sculpture, his profile sharply defined and high-grade examples, but often softened and circulated ones. Above Lincoln sits the motto "In God We Trust," a powerful phrase that gained even more significance during the 1950s Cold War period. To the left appears the word liberty, and to the right the large date 1958, which in this case is especially important because the coin we're discussing includes damage near that very date. Sometimes this damage is simple circulation wear, but other times it may reveal deeper mysteries. Die chips, lamination cracks, and metal separation near the date are known error types from the 1950s, and collectors often evaluate them closely. Although this particular piece is described as bad condition, the interest arises partly because unique coins, even damaged ones, can reveal rare characteristics unseen in typical mint state examples. On the reverse side, the wheat ears stand tall on both ends of the design, framing the bold 1 cent in United States of America. The familiar motto "E pluribus unum" sits above the text. This was the last year this design appeared on American coinage, and collectors treat 1958 wheat cents as symbolic final chapters of a beloved era. This emotional connection often drives prices higher in auction houses, especially if the coin offers anything beyond the ordinary. Value in the auction market today can be surprising. A normal heavily circulated 1958 cent might bring only a few cents, but a unique error or rare striking anomaly, even in low grade, can skyrocket into the tens or hundreds of thousands depending on collector curiosity. The record-shattering sales involve rare double die obverse examples, die misalignments, and not Plankett flaws that occurred late in the wheat design's production history. One incredibly scarce double-die cent from 1958 achieved auction bids surpassing $1 million, setting new expectations for what even common-date Lincoln cents might achieve. When rarity enters the equation, the coin we are describing, while damaged, still falls into the category of extraordinary pieces that attract attention. Auction specialists have estimated such unusual examples, especially those with known die signatures or curious metal peeling near the date, can exceed $494,000 in competitive bidding events. The uniqueness drives the value more than the grade. The mintage history adds another layer to the story. Although over 252 million pieces rolled out of the Philadelphia Mint in 1958, many were lost to circulation, melted in bulk, or damaged beyond recognition. Only a fraction remain collectible, and an even smaller number exhibit odd defects or accidental die anomalies. Since there is no mint mark, these coins were produced exclusively in Philadelphia, a mint known for high-speed output during the post-war boom. Sometimes high-speed production leads to mistakes, when plankets were improperly mixed or metal blanks exhibited impurities. Lamination errors occurred. If the damage near the date on this coin relates to lamination or die cracks, collectors would consider it notable even if the coin appears unattractive. Collector interest in damaged yet unusual coins has grown steadily thanks to online auctions and social media coin communities. When one unique piece sells for six figures, the entire collector base begins hunting for similar traits. Videos, image comparisons, and auction analyses fuel the desire to own something others don't. This 1958 example, with its imperfections and unusual near date damage, has become a conversation point among advanced collectors. Its story bridges rarity, history, and unpredictability, which are the three ingredients that often create shocking auction results. Even though this coin is described as being in bad condition, the narrative surrounding damaged coins in numismatics has shifted. Collectors today appreciate authenticity, natural aging, and true circulation history more than ever before. If a coin shows that it has traveled through time yet still retains unique mint origin traits, the value remains. And when those traits involve potential error characteristics, even damaged coins become valuable. So the 1958 Lincoln wheat cent we're highlighting today carries not just the scars of circulation, but the potential markings of rarity. And that combination is precisely what has driven similar examples above the $494 zero mark in modern auctions. Serious collectors fight hard for pieces that no one else has. And there's no denying that this coin stands apart from standard 1958 wheat cents. Seen in circulation, the mystique and historical connection to the final wheat cent year, the design details, the mintage statistics, and the possibility of rare error origins all converge to make this 1958 large date wheat cent without mint mark a standout in the world of valuable coins. While it may look ordinary or even unattractive to the untrained eye, collectors know a deeper truth. The most valuable coins are not always the prettiest. They are often the rarest, the strangest, the most mysterious, and the most debated. This coin fits that definition perfectly. Its auction potential remains enormous, and past sales support valuations exceeding $494 zero when the right buyers collide in bidding wars. And that is why this seemingly damaged little cent stands today as one of the most astonishing treasures in the Lincoln series. Thanks for joining us. Happy collecting!